Hello everyone, just another update. I didn't get a chance to do the sermon yesterday because there was issues with some parishioners at church. The pastor was called away for emergency, so we had church canceled last night. But since I said I was going to do a sermon, I am going to do the sermon here today. Give me a chance to tweak it and do what I need to do for the actual church sermon, which I'm sure we'll record there as well. But you'll see me look down a lot. I actually have my notes. This was actually just written in the last couple of days, so this is all new to me. I haven't actually practiced it or anything like that. This is the very first thing, and you get to see it first. It says, why bad things happen to good people. The key verse for this is John 16:13, where Jesus says, these things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. In the world ye shall have tribulation. But be of good cheer, I have overcome the world. The world is always full of issues and struggles, and there's always something going on, and I'm going to try to explain this from a biblical viewpoint. I'm going to help you understand it. I learned a lot studying for this, adding stuff to it, building stuff up, getting all the research done. It's even more clear now. It's something I always wanted to do, kind of, whatever. But now it's starting to make a whole lot more sense, and I'm hoping that I can translate it so that it makes sense to you as well. We're going to start off this thing with the Garden of Eden. Genesis 3:8 says, God walked in the garden in the cool of the day. This was after Adam had already eaten the fruit and everything like that. They had discovered that they were naked, they were ashamed, they were hiding. You have to surmise that God may have actually walked with them regularly, physically side by side, just, during the day, just walking along with them. Anyway, he was calling to Adam, wanting to know where he was. And Adam was ashamed because, he was naked and he didn't realize it before because he hadn't tasted the fruit and all this kind of stuff. And then when he had, then everything just, he's in trouble. So basically the point is that God basically gave us the keys to the car. Told us we can do anything we wanted to do, just do not eat fruit from this tree. Get the keys to the car, and we wreck it in the ditch. Boom. Everything just goes from there downhill as fast as it can go. Since that point, Romans 8:22 says, all of creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. Because of the suffering, because of the sin that was created into the world at that point, everyone now has to face trials and tribulations, basically because there's no other way around it. It's just the way the world works. I know it sounds kind of silly, but there's more points to it that actually starts to make sense. It's alien to this world. We are all, as believers, video is actually geared more towards believers, Christians, those being pulled in, those who are feeling that urgency, things like that. These are the good people we're talking about, not just everyday people on the street necessarily that, do good because what qualifies as good when the only way to get into heaven is through Christ Jesus. So we're basically going to go with that route as the basis of everything that we're going on. John 17:16 says, they are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. That's what Jesus was saying, is that he's not of the world. We are not to be of the world. We can be in the world, but not of it. Because obviously we can't just say that we're not a part of this, we're just done. We can't do that, so we don't get off free card. So basically it boils down that everything just kind of runs, that we are not a part of what the world does. as an example of that, anybody who knows anyone or has themselves an autoimmune disorder, anything like diabetes or anything like that, the pancreas basically is understood to be alien to the body. It's like when you get a cold, the white blood cells rush to attack the cold cells. But in the autoimmune system, the pancreas is actually attacked because it's considered as it's in the body, but it is not of the body. So it's considered as an enemy piece. And as an enemy piece, it is attacked by the white blood cells, just like if you had a cold or the flu or anything like that, it's basically attacking it itself. So it's that same concept. If you're in the world but not of it, then the world attacks you as an enemy because you don't belong in the world. So it tries to take you out of the world, if that makes sense. I will touch on this with some other videos later on. 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, there have been no temptations taken you but such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it. So if you have a temptation come at you, if you have this attack come at you, there's always a way out. You just have to find it. You have to be patient. There is a lot of issues that go on with that. People are like, well, God's not hearing me because, I pray for it and it takes, sometimes weeks, days, sometimes months to actually get anything back. But that's all because of the plan. God's sitting here trying to, He's doing this stuff for us, trying to get the message through. Sometimes the devil intercepts it, as he did with Daniel. Actually had an archangel have to come down and help him to get through, so that way the message wasn't intercepted and he was thinking that God had forsaken him, but God had not forsaken him. It was just being diverted. That happens a lot. So you're sitting here thinking, God, why are you not hearing me? And God always hears. He always hears. He may not show instant situation changes because it's not the way it works. It's in God's time. It's in due time, not in our time. It's right when God means for it to happen, that's when it happens. And I know sometimes it's hard to understand, but like I said, I'll do more videos on all this later on, bits and pieces of it. There's a whole lot deeper we can go with it. But also, another thing, says John 10:10 says, the thief cometh not, but to steal, and to kill, and to destroy. I am come that they might have life, and that they may have it more abundantly. Basically what that's saying is that God wants you to be happy. God wants you to succeed. God wants you to be healthy. He's not going to sit here and throw stuff at you just to be mean or just to be hateful. The world does that. Anything, I always use John 10:10 as a litmus test for myself. So anything that's going to destroy something, anything that's going to kill something, not necessarily physically, but it can kill your happiness, it can kill your motivation, it can kill your positivity, it can, to steal, destroy, any of that kind of stuff that can occur, whether it be physical, mental, spiritual, then it's not of God. Because God comes to give life more abundantly. So that way we can do what we need to do to get in a relationship with God, not deal with all the stuff that's coming at us on all sides constantly. And that's what happens when you're walking with God. The closer you walk with God, actually the worse it's going to be. The fight is always stronger. It's almost like playing a video game. It's like, you start off on level 1 when you first start, and you get some little piddly, attacks coming at you. You're like, I can handle it, get a little experience, if you will. Build the levels up, you get up a little further, and it starts getting a little harder. The closer you get to walking with God, the closer in a true relationship you get with God, the harder it's going to be. It's seriously just coming at you constant, just boom, boom, boom. You don't really know what's going on. You don't know why stuff's happening. You're just like, why is it happening to me? A lot of times it's because you are walking on the right path and the devil is trying to knock you off of it. He knows his fate. The devil knows. And then there's nothing more he would like to do than to basically take us off from God's grace and take as many of us as possible, because he's jealous of that. He does not want us to be close to God, because he was the one who thought that he could do it better. He was the one that was the, if you could put it, the praise and worship leader. He was the one that had everything going his way. Then when he got cast out because, he rebelled, and we basically took his place, because we're the worship team now. We're the ones that get out there and sing the praises to God. We're the ones that work to get the message out. All of us, humans in general. And he doesn't like that. We took his place. We took his job. He's all about wanting to take us out, destroy us, and make sure that we go to the lake of fire with him. So just be aware of that. And if you're not being attacked every day, you really should look at your intentions and your motivations. Because if you're not being attacked every day, at least to some extent, you may be playing for the wrong team. Because, whether what sport you play, or if you've ever played a sport, or if you watch sports, if you're going towards the wrong goal, the other team's not going to try to stop you from having you score for them. That's when the fight starts. It's when you start going towards your own goals, when you start going towards the goals, that relationship with God, that grace, that knowledge that God has you in his grasp. That's when the assault comes. That's when they try to put a defensive line between you and the goal. That's when the fight is constant and consistent. And anybody who tells you that being a Christian, you hear this in church, yeah, if you're a Christian, it's all good because nobody, everything's great and everything's wonderful and you don't have to worry about nothing. They're a liar. Because I can guarantee you, when you're a Christian, you're in full-fledged war 24/7. So if you're not built for the fight, you need to find some way to get there, because you will fight. Ephesians doesn't talk about wearing the full armor of God just so you can sit there and take it. You have to wear armor so that way you can get engaged and actually get involved with the fight. That's what it's for. There's also a form of a test. James 1:2-4 says, "My brethren, count it joy when ye fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing." Sometimes this happens so that way God can build your faith, to allow you to be patient. That patience actually allows you to be perfect and to be entire, which means whole. That you have faith, it's going to be there. The patience, it'll be there in God's time, not when you want it. Then that's when the patience comes. It'll work out. You just have to have faith it'll work out. Sometimes it's hard. And like I said, with all this other stuff we've already discussed, the fight's going to be on. It's going to be coming at you from all sides. There's not going to be anything that's not going to be contested unless it's going in the wrong direction. So always remember that. Now, this is a little tidbit that I found interesting that I had actually read before, but I'd actually forgotten about. But Luke 22:42-44 and Matthew 26:39, this is actually out of Luke. It's basically Jesus asks if it's God's will to remove, if he would remove this cup from him. But if it's not his will, no, we're not going to do that one. reading from Luke 22:42-44, it says, saying, Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. And there appeared an angel unto him from heaven, strengthening him. And being in an agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was, it were, great drops of blood falling down to the earth. Even Jesus was being attacked. He asked God, please, just don't let this happen. That was when Judas was getting ready to betray him with the kiss. He's like, please, just take it away. If it's not your will, don't let this happen. Don't let this happen. And an angel shows up, which is basically God saying, no, I'm not going to take it from you. It's going to happen. So I'm sending an angel to strengthen you because you can't handle it by yourself. So this is what we're going to do. So Jesus prayed more earnestly. He's like, please don't let this happen. Please just don't let this happen. But what happened out of this whole deal, going back up to the first ones we talked about earlier with 1 Corinthians 10:13 with the way out. God gave Jesus the way out. And because of that way out, Jesus went to the cross, which allowed all of us a way out. Had God not told Jesus no, we would still not have a way out. Jesus would still be just, a great teacher, great, shepherd, whatever. But the cross is what allowed us as Gentiles into heaven, into God's world, if you will, as adopted into God. So him allowing Jesus to go ahead and take this attack, to go ahead and not take this cup from him, but sending an angel to strengthen him, allowed all of us that way out through the cross. That is honestly everything that we could possibly have that leads us straight to God. It all comes through the cross. Because without the cross, we don't get in. And God knew that. And Jesus knew that, though Jesus did not want to be betrayed. Obviously, nobody wants their friends to stab him in the back. As he was praying, and he prayed, and he prayed, and he prayed, God said no. And because God said no, we're all free today. And I thank God for that. That's the basis that I have right now. I'm going to leave it unedited. I know I changed some things. I messed up a couple of times. I hit a pause button a couple of times because I'd lost my spot or whatever. But I want to leave it as is. I'm not going to do any of this special editing or cutting out or all this kind of stuff for my mistakes, because I want you to understand as a viewer that we're not perfect, that I'm not perfect. There's nothing I could do to ever be perfect. So I'm going to show you where I make mistakes, where I learn to do these things and learn to adapt from my mistakes to improve. So I want you to understand, that, I'm not perfect. I'll never be perfect, and I don't want to be perfect, because if I was perfect, I would not need God. And I need God. I cannot survive without God. You cannot survive without God, whether you believe it or not. But in the end, God's the only way. He's the shield, he's the buckler, he's the sword. He's the word of peace, he's the comforter, he's the great physician. Everything comes through God. And with that, I'm going to wrap this up. You're more than welcome to contact me at the email address. I got the email address at vanguardlionspride@gmail.com. I will I have that posted down below. Actually, I think I did that wrong. I think it's vanguardlionspride at gmail.com. I will put that in the description. Like I said, I'll also put all the other pertinent information down below. And by all means, if you need more information, if you need anything to help, or if you have any ideas of what I can do, you want sermons, you want any messages or anything like that you need me to research for you, to look up, try to see if we can find an answer, by all means, shoot me an email, send me a message, whatever it is that you need to do, the best way to contact me, whatever's good for you. God bless. I hope this message touches you. I hope this message leads you in the right path and lets you understand that because you're a good person does not really exempt you from attacks. In fact, more often than not, because you are a true good person, because God truly has his hand upon you, the attacks get stronger, the attacks get harder, the attacks get worse. Just hold the fort, just hold the line, and remember that God loves you, that God has built you for the fight. You may not feel like you can fight. You may feel like, you can't survive this. But I can promise you that God has built you for the fight, that you are not alone. That's the biggest lie out there, is that the devil wants you to believe that you're alone, that you're the only one that ever has to go through what you're going through. And I can guarantee you, you are not. There is nothing about anything that the devil has ever done, anything that you have faced, that you face alone. We're all here for you. Just, like I said, just reach out. We'll be here for you. We'll be glad to pray for you, pray with you. We'll be glad to, anything that you want to understand. You need more questions, by all means, ask questions. You need answers, we'll do what we can to find you answers. But, like I said, just hold the faith, hold the line, and be ready for the fight. God bless you and have an awesome, awesome day.